You're probably staring at a stack of quotes for industrial table saws, wondering if you're about to drop $1,000 on a machine that will sit half-used in the shop, or if you'll finally get the piece of equipment that lets you rip a 212 cleanly, safely, and without spending half the day cleaning dust. I get that hesitation. The last thing you want is to spend money on a saw that looks great on paper but ends up being a headache in daily use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When it comes to a 10-inch industrial cabinet saw, the real question is how it fits into the rhythm of a busy workshop. The SAWSTOP 10-inch industrial cabinet saw isn't just a bigger version of a benchtop model. It's built around a 5-horsepower motor, a 36-inch glide fence, and a safety system that actually stops the blade when it contacts skin. That safety feature alone changes the calculus for anyone who has ever had a slip blade incident or worries about a junior tech learning the ropes. It means you can let an apprentice feed a board a little faster without that gnawing fear you'll have to call an ambulance. The first thing I looked at was the sheer mass of the unit, close to 700 pounds of iron and steel. That isn't just a brag-about weight statistic. It translates into a machine that won't hop when the motor hits full throttle on a thick hardwood, or when you're pulling a long rip. In my own shop, the saw stays rocksteady even when I'm cutting a 4x10 sheet of plywood at full speed, and the vibration stays low enough that the fence stays true to the cut line. For a shop that does a lot of repeat cuts, that stability reduces the need to constantly remeasure and reset, saving you minutes that add up over a day. Dust is another hidden cost. A lot of cabinet saws claim dust collection, but the SAWSTOP system pulls about 99% of the dust both above and below the table. In practice, that means the air in the shop stays noticeably clearer, and the floor beneath the saw doesn't become a thick layer of fine sawdust after a few hours of ripping. I've run the saw with a standard shop vac hooked up to the dust port, and the amount of fine particulates that escape is minimal. That's a real win if you're dealing with health regulations or just don't want to spend extra time sweeping and vacuuming after each shift. Now, let's talk about who actually benefits from those features. If you're a professional carpenter, a small to medium furniture shop, or a contractor who needs to do a lot of repeat cuts on hardwood, MDF, or engineered lumber, this saw is a solid match. The 5 HP motor gives you enough torque to push through dense material without bogging down, and the 36-inch glide fence lets you set up long rip cuts without needing a separate extension. The safety system, while it adds a few extra dollars, pays for itself in peace of mind and potentially lower insurance premiums for shops that can document that they've taken every possible precaution. On the other side of the ledger, if you're a hobbyist who only does occasional weekend projects, this machine may be overkill. The footprint alone requires a dedicated space, and you'll need a sturdy floor that can support nearly a ton of weight. The initial investment is substantial, and while the safety system is fantastic, a well-maintained 10-inch contractor saw with a basic blade guard can be sufficient for low-volume work. Also, if you're primarily working with thin plywood or softwoods and rarely need to rip boards longer than 24 inches, the 36-inch fence may never see its full potential, making the extra cost harder to justify. One practical downside that shows up after you get the saw out of the box is the learning curve around the lockout/tagout switch. It's a great safety addition, but you have to remember to disengage it before you start a cut and re-engage it afterward. In a fast-moving shop where multiple people jump on the same machine, it's easy to forget, and you'll end up pausing a project while someone double-checks the switch. That's a minor inconvenience, but it's something you need to bake into your workflow. Another point worth noting is the dust collection port size. It fits a standard 4-inch hose, which works with most shop vacs, but if you already have a larger, high-volume dust extractor, you'll need an adapter. That's not a deal-breaker, just an extra piece of hardware to source. The blade change mechanism, while robust, isn't as quick as some of the newer magnetic brake systems you see on premium saws. You'll still need a wrench to loosen the arbor bolt, so swapping blades isn't a one-handed affair. If you're switching between a ripping blade and a fine-tooth crosscut blade multiple times a day, that extra minute per change can add up. Overall, the value of the SAWSTOP 10-inch industrial cabinet saw comes from where the money is really.